you just make an example of one court stormer per game, where he would be taken to court,
yes,
fined heavily, perhaps jailed.
All right, Dan, on your count.
perhaps jailed.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I believe over the last few years, if you've been paying attention in this space to the business of college football, I believe that Mike Ryan, Lucy, and Jessica, who's not even here today, have reported very strongly and earnestly and correctly and fairly about what the business of the NCAA is becoming, is the whole thing like shakes and clatters. Stugotz got $7.8 billion in TV revenue. ESPN is going to be able to rent out these games. They're going to be using these bodies on the sport that we love, and there's going to be moral conundrums everywhere, and the prices are skyrocketing because everybody knows how much money's involved. Mike and Lucy and Jessica have stood out in their reporting about the commerce of this, showing you the insides of what the business looks like in ways that are funny, creative, illuminating, and honestly reported, expertly reported. So correct me if I'm wrong. Are you guys willing to break the story, or is someone else breaking it, that the NCAA is now dead?
Well, this happened several days ago, so the story has very much already been broken. But we're doing our best to get to it in a moderately timely manner. So the NCAA is dead. You've heard it here, not first or second or third, but like hundreds
okay,
down
but
the list.
I'd like to have the original reporting on this that confirms it's not an insignificant thing that's happened over the last couple of weeks.
No, so basically what happened, and this was Friday of last week, was the NCAA lost a lawsuit against the state of Virginia and Tennessee. This one happened specifically in Tennessee. That pretty much opens up the floodgates with NIL, saying that the NCAA is not able to restrict any sort of NIL payments from boosters or collectives or whatever that could be. So it's pretty much a free market. And the NCAA really has only been around to say you can't pay players and you can't transfer and we're going to make everything crazy difficult for everyone. So this pretty much feels like what's the final blow to the NCAA. They don't really do anything anymore.
They hired a former governor to, I guess, make inroads with politicians to see if Congress can actually get involved here. Not a great time to get Congress to do anything at the moment. So this is happening at a pretty tumultuous time in our country where you have a politician in place basically to have the government do what they can't. The ruling really isn't as big a deal as they make it out to be. They essentially ruled that you can now use NIL to attract players. Wow, no one's done that before. I'm speaking for everybody else. At the University of Miami, you agree to come here and then we talk NIL. We're the outlier pretty much. But it doesn't really mean much other than solidify that we are now acknowledged to be in the Wild West. But I am not in favor of this ruling. I may surprise you with that. I think we need to have a governing body in place because what's going to happen is football will get more and more crazy and more money will be spent. And we're going to ignore, as we have with this, because I haven't seen the think pieces on this really, the non-revenue sports may die or be suspended until we have a solution. And say all you want about the NCAA, but they are necessary when it comes to non-revenue sports. Who's going to be organizing softball, baseball, track and field? I really think that we are fast approaching a part in college athletics where we're not going to have non-revenue sports until we figure this out.
Well, this happened quick, right? Because I thought we saw, look, man, when we talked all about this business terrain, please tell me if I have any part of this wrong. They were always warning us, if basketball and football are going to be that more valuable than everything else, they will have no responsibility to keep everything else alive. And of course, at the time of greatest greed, all of the top is going to go where the money goes. And yes, you're going to get a whole lot of athletics are going to get undercut by the business of this. They warned us this was coming in 20 years. It's gotten here like right now, correct? Do I have anything wrong there?
No, it's happening too fast, and it's happening so fast that there isn't a replacement in place. What is the alternative to the NCAA when it comes to these other sports? Football is great. I give a lot to football, but I give a lot to a lot of athletics, and football only takes up really on my calendar 20% of my time. Most of the sports that I attend with my family are non-revenue sports, and I'm really afraid that they're just going to fall by the wayside here as we prioritize the revenue.
You've already seen non-revenue sports get cut. When COVID hit, that was a lot of the first things to go from these athletic departments, cutting swimming, cutting tennis. And so Mike Ryan makes an amazing point where the way I think this should be done is there should be a separate governing body for college football, because that's a completely different animal than college wrestling, than college softball.
Probably the CFP.
Yeah, but they can't do anything. They don't know what's going on, and they're ruining that too. So maybe they shouldn't be in charge. Someone not the CFP should be in charge of college football. We're in a scary time where you're going to see these non-revenue sports dip. There's also the question with this NIL money coming directly, where does Title IX factor into this?
Yeah, I would do that, by the way. I would be the college football commissioner.
Wow.
I believe
What
I'm
are your
suited.
And the
credentials?
executive producer of this show. Huh?
Great.
Right.
I'll do them both at the same time. Right. You're right about. I'm glad you mentioned Title IX, because Title IX ranks above the NCAA because it's a national law. And if not for Title IX, there would be no such thing as women's rowing at the University of Miami, and men's golf and women's tennis. I mean, almost every woman's sport below basketball would not exist.
At the University of Miami, there are people that are really trying to push for a softball program, and you can't be pushing for it at a worse time right now with all this uncertainty.
Okay, but forgive me, Mike, because you have been a bit of a protector. Like, you've been shouting without seeming hysterical on, you can't just let all the governance walls collapse, because then it's going to become such free commerce that it's going to ruin the sport very quickly.
I guess my Miami relationship is held against me. I do think that there should be some order. I don't like that it's arbitrary depending on which state that you're operating in, and I don't necessarily want the government involved. I just want adults in the room. And right now we have a rudderless ship, and now it's all out in the open. And it's not sexy when you're fantasy booking a 14-team college football playoff and you're hyping up EA's next big release. They're not going to be releasing EA's track and field. And these are really essential programs that benefit the student athletes, that give people access to college that in some cases may otherwise not have it. And it's being forgotten here as everyone just grave dances.
There's a pretty easy solution to some of this, and it would be pay college football coaches less. But that will never, ever in a million years happen. So I'm sorry I brought it up. My bad.
No. The injustice of the entity that's making all the revenue not really paying for the labor. I mean, they do in some institutional things. They provide these games and they organize them. But really, the people funding NIL, they're not the schools for the most part. There's some states here and there. But the grave injustice that we all rebelled against is still there.
I know who to put in charge. There, right there. The son of nepotism.
Pretty
there it
good.
is. Put him in charge. Stugotz, I don't know if the audience is going to take this bit of information and assume that all of the money that has been pouring into the Ron Magill endowment, because people just sort of trust he's going to take great care of taking care of the animals and try to remove all the paperwork and everything else. So you either trust him to be decent and have decent people running his things, or he's going to get a new car and a Cadillac as he has, better clothes. And now soon he and I are running off to Africa again. I want to get to Africa, where it is that I got engaged to my wife, and now I'm going to have a personal safari tour with him, and I'm assuming it's all paid for by the endowment, by the listeners.
Or the merch store.
Yes.
I don't know who's paying for all of this, but I am very pleased to announce that I'm going to have a personal tour guide in Africa with Ron Magill. How great is that going to be?
It's going to be epic. That word is sometimes overused, but this is truly going to be epic. Everything from Victoria Falls, Kruger National Park, to leopards, lions, elephants, rhinos, buffalo. It's going to be amazing. Not to mention private chefs, tents that make a 5-star hotel in New York look like a bunkhouse. It's going to be like nothing you've ever experienced in your life. I pulled out the best of the best. We're staying in Derek and Beverly Gilbert's private suite in Botswana, which is like unbelievable. This is going to be like nothing you've ever seen.
Wow. What's the dynamic of this trip? Like, you're going to show Dan around Africa?
Is Ron working?
Yeah. Is
he
Dan,
paying you?
Is he paying for your expenses? Is he paying you to do this? What's the dynamic?
No. No, he's not paying for me to do this.
Oh.
This is a pleasure and a privilege for me, not as much for him as it is for his beautiful wife.
There's no way a tent is nicer than a hotel room.
Okay. Wait until I send you the pictures, Billy G.
Billy
Wait until
G,
I send you
huh?
the picture.
Cam Newton status. I mean, a
Kenny's
yurt.
brother.
Are you staying in a yurt? Because I have stayed in a yurt that's nicer than a hotel room. I've done that.
Trust me. When I want to just send you guys, when we get back, we'll send you pictures, and it'll be fodder for social media forever.
Is Dan building the tent?
To be clear, none of the endowment money is actually going to any of what it is.
Thank you,
We're
Dan.
talking
Yeah,
about.
right.
But the merch store money is.
No, none of the money. All of the money is being kept in all the right places. You either believe that Ron Magill is an honorable man, or you do not, or you believe that he is paying for trips around the world so that with listener funds. I don't believe he would do that. That would be a terrible fraud at the end of his great and distinguished career. So I'm going to trust him with this one.
When's this happening? Just to make sure we have the PTO on the calendar, because that seemed to be an issue last week.
I don't usually tell dates because that tells you when you're going to be out of town, and people watching and say, "Hey, that's
Security
a good time to go to
breach.
Because he's been in Miami all his life. Ron Magill will tell you the same thing Mike will tell you. We won't storm a court here because the police will break our legs, and that's understood.
They'll shoot you is what Mike said.
No, but I mean, it's understood from a young age. No, they're way ahead of the times on security measures. We will not rush a field because why? We'll end up in the hospital for 10 days.
I aspire to have a compound like Ron where he's afraid to say when he's out of town.
Also, in all fairness, the people of Africa have asked that I do not disclose when Dan is going to be there because we know how,
Too many hippos in one spot.
Poachers.
The crew are, and they could get out there and try to get it Dan.
A continent asked me not to disclose
No
where
one
Dan
asked
was
you,
going to
Ron.
be.
Poachers.
A continent did that.
They did. They told me, listen, we don't want to make it known when we'll be here because
It's an
you know, it's
airbrushed
anytime-
New Era cap on some
Hippo season? What are we afraid
rich
of?
poacher's wall.
Just saying. The guy draws a crowd, and we don't want crowds. We want peace and tranquility out there in Africa.
Going after hippos,
You
He's going to
guys,
see lots of Dan Le Batards out there, that's for sure.
you guys have my.
I want to meet this poacher. He's got a Mike Francesa Diet Coke on his wall.
You and Valerie got room in the tent for me because I've never been to Africa, and I would really like to join you on that trip. Tell me off air when it starts.
Their tent that they're staying in has room for the entire crew, and you guys wouldn't even have to see each other.
Oh, wow.
You,
Wow.
Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Dan.
Dan.
I believe
you,
the suite,
Dan.
the tent suite is 3,000 square feet.
Wow. Seriously?
Seriously.
That's crazy. The word is
Yep.
a tent. You still call it a tent? There has to be a
Yeah,
different
because the
word
only
for
thing
that.
tent about it is canvas walls. We're talking about hardwood floors, incredible, Roman tubs, jacuzzis. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Oh my gosh.
Ron, I had sent to the people who work over here because I saw it the other day and I couldn't believe the size of an anaconda that I'm assuming was real. I think it was the biggest that has ever been seen anywhere. And I'm assuming in the age of artificial intelligence that you're able to verify things that are real and are not real. And when you saw this video I speak of, were you
I
somewhat?
have not seen the video. What I'm looking at right now is a red-faced Yukari. That's not an anaconda. It's a red-faced Yukari, kind of like when Stugotz gets really mad.
Yep.
Chris Cody, why are you making faces at me?
Oh, no, I'm making faces at the video team because they're doing the thing where it's a side-by-side. And before it was Benjamin Franklin and Larry David, and now it's Monkey.
That's
Oh,
for
is that what it is?
Oh, we're still okay. So we're still making the joke. When you were onboarded by Chris Cody, did he say anything about how you look? Because it's visually startling to everyone every time you make.
I
an
saw him
appearance.
smirking.
I did look at him and go, what the heck? Did you lose a bet? I thought he was George Washington, but I guess he's Larry David.
My larger point, though, Ron, is just the idea of an anaconda that is the size of 3 or 4 Shaquille O'Neals stacked on top of each other. How is that a thing that can be real?
That can be real. I will say an anaconda is the largest snake in the world. It's not the longest. The longest snake in the world record is 33 feet 3 inches, a reticulated python. I'm looking at the video now. It looks pretty real. But again, with all this artificial intelligence, I don't know what to believe anymore. I saw a video the other day of a great white shark on a beach that looked so real to me. And then they told me, no, it's artificial intelligence. So there is an outstanding award of over $100,000 for any snake 30 feet or longer that can be found today. So, I mean, that's a $100,000 snake there if they're saying it's 30 feet long.
But why? Why is that a reward?
because nobody believes that it exists anymore. And they've actually created this reward from a legitimate source that if you can produce a 30-foot snake, you will be paid $100,000.
Who do you turn that into? Like a dead snake? You just have a snake carcass and you take it somewhere?
Theoretically, yeah, as long as you can legitimately prove that it was that long. I'm hoping they would not kill it, but people do a lot of things for $100,000. I don't think the $100,000 is based on a live snake. It just has to be based on a real snake.
Wow.
Ron, can you explain to us what that eats? What's something like that? How long that would take for a snake to get that large? What is
that anaconda? That anaconda is an ambush predator, and it's going to feed primarily probably on capybaras, which are the world's largest rodent, fairly common throughout the Amazon basin. They are an aquatic type of rodent. So they swim quite a bit. Like I said, a large rodent, that would be a very good meal. They will also feed on deer, various type of deer that come to drink in the water. Again, they just will place themselves on the bank of the water, generally speaking, waiting for something to come and get a drink, and they'll get it that way, or they'll slowly track it down. Animals take common paths. They create paths. Even though they're in the wild, they'll take the same path almost every day as part of their routine. And snakes can smell that, and they'll wait there, and they'll kind of camouflage themselves along that path until the animal unknowingly walks by and then wraps his coils around him, suffocates him, swallows him whole.
The great white shark that you saw that washed up ashore was not artificial intelligence. That was a real thing. A 15-foot pregnant great white shark washed up.
That was another one, but there's another one. There's another one.
Okay.
I saw that one.
Okay, yeah, there's a bunch of local news outlets. There was a fishing hook found in the mouth of a great white shark. They're still doing studies to find out as to why this pregnant great white shark washed up ashore. We are getting more and more great white shark sightings. We are seeing humpback whales off the coast of Florida as well. There have been killer whales spotted down here. Not that the occasional great white shark sighting hasn't been an occasional thing down here, but they're becoming more and more routine. What is happening in our coastal waters that is getting all this new marine life?
Well, hopefully it's good news. Hopefully the populations are increasing, and hopefully there's more out there. But it also can have something to do with climate change. As temperatures are changing in the waters, populations of fish are shifting, and the prey that feeds on those fish is also shifting. So, you might just be seeing a shift in populations where you might not see as many in places they were previously seen and seeing more. And now these,
right. That's what I want to ask you about, because these are generally marine life that are spotted in colder water temperatures. And,
exactly.
and when you say climate change, well, why the heck would they want to come down here when the ocean water sometimes is that of a sauna? But this could all be migratory and predatory?
Exactly. Migratory and predatory. And again, Mike, I think animals have the ability to adapt to things. Maybe these animals that, for generations have been restricted to colder water climates, all of a sudden now is starting to say, well, you know what, we're getting warmer and warmer. We're going to start getting ourselves introduced to this warmer and warmer climate. And as each successive generation comes along, we might be seeing animals like the polar bears. I think, within several generations, you're going to start seeing polar bears come inland and start hunting inland and start competing with grizzly bears, because getting out on the ice is no longer an option for them. I don't think they're going to go quote unquote extinct, but what they're going to do is they're probably going to come in. I believe there's already been documented cases of them hybridizing with grizzly bears. And, you're going to come up with the adaptation of basically another species of bear that comes from the polar bear. Not the true polar bear we know today, but not a polar bear either.
What a horror that is you're describing. You're describing a future where there are bear wars right before they come for the humans, where the polar bears and the grizzly bears are going to fight over land, and they're going to look at humans and they're like, those are going to be delicious too. That's the apocalypse you're describing in our future.
There you go. New movie, Planet of the Bears.
Ron, I was driving home and I stopped at the Fort Pierce Service Plaza, and for whatever reason, they had like animal facts printed along the ceiling. And one of them was, scientists estimate that 91% of ocean species have yet to be classified. That's just made up, right?
I've said this many times, Billy. We know less about the ocean than we know about the moon.
But that number is they just said, let's pick a big number, right? There's no way that you could know that you don't know 91% of something.
I think it's fair to say that they can extrapolate that just from where the places that they haven't been able to discover, the places they haven't have access to, looking at things, coral reefs they're like the rainforests of the water. I mean, there's so much diversity, so much that we haven't discovered yet. Even in the coral reefs we get to, there's stuff we haven't discovered yet. In a rainforest, we get 50% of all of our pharmaceuticals from rainforest plants. yet we've only thoroughly, examined 10% of the plants in our rainforest. So there's 90% of the plants that we haven't examined yet, where we got 50% from 10%. What's in that other 90%? Same thing with the ocean, man.
A lot of numbers.
Made up.
A lot of numbers. That's it.
Scott Steiner,
You know what? Billy and Chris Cody got it exactly right. Yeah, numbers. Shut up, Zoo Man. Greg Cody has a question.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I have a question first. Sorry to cut you off. Did you hear, Ron, about Charlotte the Stingray in North Carolina, who hasn't had a mate in 8 years and is now impregnated, and no one knows how, if it was one of the sharks that's in the tank or not?
Not that no one knows how, and it's not one of the sharks in the tank. It's something called parthenogenesis. It's not uncommon in fish and some reptiles, where they're actually able to fertilize their own eggs without having a mate.
Wow.
Like Jesus.
How about that?
So that happens. There are other animals that have what's called sperm storage. For instance, the common box turtle can store sperm for up to 7 years. In other words, breed in 2010 and have babies from that one breeding for every year up to 2017 by storing the sperm. So, I mean, wildlife is incredible when you think about this stuff. And what it does is it removes the necessity for these animals to meet every time. So when populations get thin or they spread out, you still are able to keep the numbers up because you don't have to meet the guy to get impregnated. You can keep producing young.
Ron, New York City is mourning the death of celebrity owl Flacco.
God, I didn't hear that. He died?
Yeah, he died. And he ran into a building, and now they're investigating whether he was ill.
Flew into a building. Hold on.
He didn't run into a building.
Are you suggesting foul play? I'll go.
Yeah, I meant he flew into a building.
Bye, Billy.
Fly out of here.
I enjoyed it.
Fly out of here. That's awful, especially since, I mean, look, what?
Yep.
Look,
2 minutes for a good joke.
no.
I didn't know Flacco died.
Look,
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to break it to you. You know
I'm sorry,
everything.
I'm sorry.
You know.
You're the animal expert. I mean,
all right,
Yeah.
this is why I'm mortified about just what happened right now, okay?
Foul owl on the prowl.
Oh, there it is. I saw that one coming.
Great Cody, bitch. That kind of thing.
Lewis feeling the hot hand.
I
Stop
feel-
talking, Lewis.
I do feel bad that that I broke that terrible news to Ron.
No, but this is why that rings
should be
I'll
breaking
tell you
it to
why
you.
this rings insincere. All of this was very poorly handled for a number of reasons. First, I believe Ron Magill to be the foremost national voice there is right now. There aren't very many of these over time, speaking to two cultures about the protection and care of the animals, and that you guys would break this news to him, which has been in the news. I'm sorry that it was delivered that way, Ron, because it's been in the news, and I just assumed that this news that you'd received it because the people in New York are hurt by what's happened here, that this owl has died.
Understandably so. And, in all fairness, I haven't been watching the news the last couple of days. I've kind of been swamped in work. I get home and I just fall asleep.
Why is this owl so famous?
Well, he escaped or was released from the Bronx Zoo, Central Park Zoo. It's a Eurasian eagle owl. It's one of the largest owls in the world. And, this happened over a year ago, I believe.
Yeah.
And, people were worried about him, that he was going to die. Oh, my God. And all he did is found out how to eat rats and squirrels and live off of the abundancy of these vermin in New York City. So he became somewhat of a folk hero and was doing very, very well. The big fear was that something would happen. Someone would shoot him. Someone would hurt him. He'd be hit by a vehicle or a car, or God forbid, now he's crashed into a window. I guess I have to look into this. But now I'm really bummed. I'm very depressed.
I'm sorry that we delivered this news that way to you because you guys kind of trampled on him on that part.
Is an owl flying into a building like if a human dies with the train tracks? It's like it had to be their fault.
Oh, come on.
Like I'm saying, I feel like the other birds are looking
some
around.
birds can't see the windows.
Chris,
though. They
let me
can't,
educate you on something.
Come on.
I try to tell people all the time, when you have big sliding doors or windows in your home,
Yep.
please use these little stickers or little markers so that birds can see them, because what birds see is a reflection of what's behind
not.
them. And you see, that hurts. That hurts. But
I say,
bottom line is birds
You
will fly
say
because
who?
they see the reflection and they hit that. They don't realize it's not, the forest behind them or the sky behind them. And they hit that. You know how many millions of birds die every year from hitting windows?
Billy doesn't care about the animals. It's been made clear
Falsehoods.
by his
it's what
chance.
Flacco would have wanted.
All right, get out of here.
I say who?
Get out of here.
You say who?
They say who.
I'm really, I'm I'm sad, guys. I'm sad, and I feel badly for Flacco. I feel badly for you guys making light of this.
Making light.
So, I hope you sleep well at night.
Wow. Jeez.
It's wrong. Ron's on the right side of this. These are assholes, Ron. I'm
Ron.
on your side. I'm 100% on your side, Ron. They deliver that news to you and then are total about it.
Well, Ron cares so much that he didn't know the news.
Yeah,
I know,
you
but
figure he have an alert.
no, but
on
we
his phone.
deliver the news
You
to
know what,
him, and
guys?
they deliver it
I'm
that
done.
way. It's
I'm
brutal,
done, guys.
brutal.
I'm
jeez.
done.
Check in on your friends every once in a
And
while.
by
you
the
know?
way, you're not. Listen, the tent you're talking about, it's got mahogany antiques in it.
Listen,
it's not a real tent.
okay,
Do it in a real tent.
What you guys just did, wretched, what you just did to Ron McGill.
In fairness, the death was 4 days ago. I spent 3 days in mourning, and now I'm celebrating the life of Flacco with a little bit of humor.
It's the J.J. Watts of tents. I mean, seriously, minimalistic. Get out of here. You guys are acting like you're going out in the wild. You're staying in a Ritz.